Hello, everyone. Welcome to this interview. And my name is Bai Li, and many of you know me as a Tai Chi examiner because I have nothing else to do. I have written more than 700 articles regarding Tai Chi, Qigong, and meditation, and also sometimes fitness. And today is a very different day. Why do I say that? Because I'm inviting someone who is fellow Tai Chi instructor and who's really, really good at AHA. And so she and I, we never met, even though I knew about her. And she actually has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. And I have maybe just two. And so she has so many followers, and you see she's young, and she understands a lot of things people facing today, especially the working people. Right, and the Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong is not just good for the old people. Some people think it's only for the oldies, and no, it's good for everyone. So and Shirley Chock, and she understand that she used to be in the very how shall I say challenging working environment. She graduated from Chicago U, and sometimes many of you know that Chicago U is famous for their finance and their economics, and she graduated with a degree in economics, right? And with a focus in finance, and she was a controller for a startup company. And at the age of 25, that's amazing. So, but at the same time, we can tell the stress and came with the responsibility and so forth. And so she really understand what the working people and what they're facing nowadays. So I am so much older than Shirley. So, but our passion for the art pretty much the same. So we're going to have a generation discussion. Hopefully, there's no generation gap. Okay, and Shirley, would you mind and introduce yourself a little bit about your background? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Violet. It's such an honor and pleasure for me to be here speaking with you, especially because we really have been on the edges of the circle around each other for so many years. We have so many mutual friends who know of both of us, but it just took so long for us to finally come together, and it makes me so happy to do that. And I'm very happy to share my story because I do have a unique story, and I think that it shows that you really don't know where your life is going to lead you. You can have plans for yourself, and plans can change almost in an instant. And that's what happened with me. I was learning Tai Chi under Grandmaster Aiping Chang in Connecticut. I moved to Connecticut in 2001, and I was first started, I was studying Wushu with her. I was
Can I take just interrupt for a little bit? And in case some of you don't know, you don't practice, Wushu means martial art, and it's a more modern term for the Chinese modern martial art. So it's called Wushu. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was studying other styles of martial arts in New York for a few years. And when I came to Connecticut, because I moved from New York to Connecticut, I wanted to continue my martial arts training. And I decided to study with Grandmaster Aiping Chang. And it was because the minute I walked into the school, I felt her presence, her spirit, and the way she the mastery that she had of her own body and her ability to communicate and teach, it was something that just you notice it immediately right away. And what I did was I actually drove back to New York to speak with my instructor in New York, because he was my mentor for so many years, and I trusted his opinion and I wanted his blessing for whoever I was going to study under, because he was such a good instructor. And when I told him about Master Aiping, he said, "Oh my God, you are so lucky that
I was going
someone
to
of her
say that.
caliber is there. Like, you have to learn from her. Like, you don't know how lucky you are that you have her there." And
Yes, yes. I was going to say that you were so fortunate. And if you don't mind, let me share a little story about myself. I started about 23 years ago, when I was pretty old, in my late 40s. And, uh, and at that time, there were not too many videos on YouTube, and YouTube just started. Then a friend of mine, and we found Aiping, and we were just drooling. We said, "Oh my God, that's just so awesome!" And then now, I mean, that's why I say you're so lucky you can learn with her. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So then I started learning, and because I had the strength and the flexibility from my other martial arts, I moved right into the advanced wushu class. And I'm also one of those people who likes to put in 120%, even if I might not I shouldn't be putting in 120%. I will still put in 120%. And that's probably why now I fractured my left foot twice. I tore my right ACL twice. I tore my left ACL once. I have like an injured right shoulder, because that's just my approach to push my body's limits. And so I tore my right ACL doing wushu, and it was the second time I tore it. The first time I tore it was when I was running track when I was 13. And at that time, the technology hadn't advanced yet. So even though I did go to a very good specialist at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, the surgery itself wasn't great. My knee actually was never the same. It bothered me so much. Whenever it rained, I had arthritis in my right knee from when I was 13 because of my surgery. But then the second time I tore my ACL, the technology advanced so much. And it just so happened. So I am a very lucky person. It's just my martial arts instructor in New York, just that hometown martial arts school, happened to be an excellent martial arts instructor. And that was just my fortune that set me up to be able to then find Master Aiping, who happened to just be the local martial arts instructor in my area. And the surgeon who repaired my knee, whose office was right next door to my work. That's why I picked it. He is one of the nation's top orthopedic surgeons for knee, with a specialty in sports injury. So after he repaired my knee was actually better than it was before. Yeah, I kind of felt like Bionic Woman because I always had problems with my knee, but then after he repaired it, I didn't have any problems with it. So my plan was to go right back to wushu, and to wushu, because at that point I was still in my 20s. but then after I started learning Tai Chi and started learning internal power and internal energy and cultivating internal power, it became so fascinating. It just drew me in so much that I didn't want to stop. I just wanted to keep going, and I made internal my focus. So I didn't do wushu anymore. I switched entirely to Tai Chi. And at that time, Master Aiping was still teaching Bagua and Xingyi. So I was also learning Bagua with her.
And those
And
are good. Those are internal martial arts as well. So
yeah, so then because of my age, um, she became like a second mother for me. Master Aiping is the same age as my own mother, and Master Aiping's daughter didn't have any interest in learning martial arts. Her daughter liked dance, and she didn't want to study martial arts, and so I became, kind of like a daughter for like her. She became like my mom, and having her as a mentor, it taught me so much, not just about the martial arts, but also what it is to be a woman in a male dominated field, to be able to have the respect of men in the field. And how do you just carry yourself? How do you talk to people? How do you trust in yourself when other people don't have maybe as much respect when you're a woman, but you still get that respect just because you are so good at what you do, and all of those things that come from just seeing how Master Aiping conducted herself and being kind of her assistant. I was the assistant for her in the school. I helped her to translate. I helped her to communicate. I was the one that was her right-hand person at the school. So I learned so much. The other thing that I learned so much was, how do you run a Tai Chi business? And I think that this is a big challenge for a lot of Tai Chi instructors, where they may not be the best at looking at things from a business perspective.
you're looking at what? Even though I have taught, probably over 10,000 people worldwide, but a lot of online, when I was doing live streaming, teaching. But in
Yeah.
person, I have taught like over 2,000 people.
Mhm.
However, I make little money enough to pay my expenses. That's it. So I'm really bad at that. So
Yeah, and I think that that's really the common thing is, you become an instructor because you're good at the art, but there's no one teaching you the business side of things.
mm,
So for me, helping Master Aiping with the school, I got to just see the decision making that she made. And I think that that was also really instrumental when it became time for me to take over the school. And that actually had its own set of challenges as well, because Master Aiping is so well known, and her brand is so strong. Even our logo was her image. It was, the school has her name, and the logo was an image of her. So after I took it over, I had to go through the process of getting people to see the brand, to slowly evolve the brand away from her as the person, but to keep her legacy as part of our brand, but to take it into a direction that I needed to take it because I'm not her. I don't have her background, her expertise. The reason why people came to the school to learn from her are the same reasons why people come to the school to learn from me. I am a different person. So that has been an interesting evolution of just the brand itself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you just mentioned about women in the martial art. Normally, we don't get much respect, and recently at the Harvard Medical School, and they how should I say host the very first science conference, and I
Yeah.
was a part of the presenters, and so one of the subject that I presented had nothing to do with medicine because I'm not medically trained. And we're talking about women in the world of Tai Chi Chuan.
Mhm.
And through my study, and I found out, as far as a healing art, teaching Tai Chi and Qigong as a healing art, there are quite a lot of women, but as a martial art, and very few. And I think
Yeah.
partially is we don't get much respect. And of course, that's a separate subject. Maybe you can come back and then we can talk about that later on. So you're very fortunate and actually work with Grandmaster Aiping and not only learn her skill, her knowledge, and in the healing art of Tai Chi and Qigong, but also you learn how to run the business. So how old were you when you took over the business?
So we had the plan that I would eventually take over the school. She wanted to pass the school to me, but the plan was something that would be much further down the line.
I see.
I thought that I was going to retire early in my Yale University job because
Oh, you worked for Yale that time. Oh, wow.
I had a 15-year career at Yale, advancing into different finance leadership roles in central finance. So I had a wonderful career there, and I loved my job. And at that point, they actually created a new position for me to take on a role that the university didn't have before, but because I was like the unofficial trainer for so many of the employees in Yale Finance, they made an official role for Director of Finance Training and Development for me to do it in an official capacity. So we could get a training program because Yale's finances are so complex. It's very complicated. You can have a CPA and break down and cry because it's so complex. You can be a Yale graduate and break down and cry because it's so complex. So I developed a training a program to help people just hit the ground running. And surprisingly, what I realized was it was that experience and how I approached teaching finance that
Mhm.
made me a much better Tai Chi teacher because
Really?
Tai
I saw
Chi
the other way around.
because Tai Chi is also so complicated. And
Yes.
one of the hard things about teaching really complicated things is you wind up getting too bogged down in too much detail that it's very hard for somebody to absorb the information. And what I did with my finance training was I approached it in a more creative way where I kind of and I used animated presentations to help me with my training.
Oh, wow.
So that helped to add a visual element to be able, because when you're trying to learn numbers and you see all the numbers laid out, it's too confusing. So and just at that time, animated presentations started to just come onto the market. So instead of using PowerPoint, I use a software called Prezi, where you can zoom in, zoom out, uncover things. And that was how I was teaching things where some things I wanted you to see at a very high level. And then some things I wanted you to see in detail, but a very narrow scope of the detail, and then layer to make the connection. So adding the visual element to be able to do that allowed people to be able to hone in. And I didn't teach the same thing to everyone because everybody needed to had a different role. So I customized my training for what people needed to know, because some people, they need to know a lot about a very narrow thing. And until they understand that, then seeing a lot of detail about other things will just be too confusing and it's not helpful. And I found that that actually translates a lot over to Tai Chi, because people, and I think one of the problems is masters, they forget what it was like to be a beginner. They are so advanced that they're teaching concepts that beginner students just are not even ready to learn yet. Like it becomes unhelpful to talk about some things when there are other things that they haven't grasped that they need to go much deeper in. So I actually found that, what I was doing with my finance training, I was also applying over to my Tai Chi training, because at this time I was one of Master Aiping's instructors. I was one of her assistant instructors, and I found that like my Tai Chi instruction was very similar to my finance instruction in this approach to help people to kind of stay where they are, to learn how to just get to that next step, and to not even worry about like step 8, 9, and 10 when they still need to work on some foundational things. And then just being able to use words that made sense for them. A lot of Tai Chi instruction, I feel, it's just passing down traditions that don't connect with a lot of people now, because they didn't live back in that time and our lifestyles are different. And there are some things, it's a very interesting evolution of where Tai Chi is now, because at the same time you have, I find, traditionalists who are holding on to the wrong things about tradition that maybe we can let go,
Well,
because that
for this part, I beg to be different, and I think yes, it's true. And some of the people out there teaching, and they claim they're the traditionalist. And but one thing is, I think it's like accounting or finance, whatever subject we deal with, we need to thoroughly understand the principles, the reasons, and the whys, and then we
yes,
internalize it, and then
absolutely.
we share with the students, like you said, your clientele. At a Yale, they are different, right? And because
Yeah.
their job are different. And when we teach Tai Chi and Qigong, our students, they have a different physical capabilities, and they have a different knowledge. So it is very important. I really appreciate you understand and you're doing that and personalize and customize and in the way you deliver that information and to the students. I think that's very, very good. And
Master Aiping used to always say, like, 功夫你要自己念出来. Like your 功夫, it has to be learned out of your own self. Like you have to go through that process to really understand it from your own understanding.
It's very interesting. Yeah. And actually a lot of old, when I say older, I mean probably not around anymore. Some older Chinese martial art teachers, they don't really, teach. And like I saw your video, and you gave very, very good explanation for why we do this kind of thing and how to do it. And a lot of times they don't say that because they want the person actually to get into it and really understand, and that's the internalization part. Because you can tell people 100 times, they're not connecting, right? But at the same time, the time is different. Nobody has that time to keep practicing and practicing, and eventually, that has an aha moment, right? They cannot wait that long. So I guess, like you say, that we instructor, we need to move on with time. We need to understand, and the person and the students, we are working with them because they are different, right? They are facing so many different challenges and priorities in their life. They don't have the time just keep practicing and practicing until they get it. So very good. And since you're talking about the teaching, and it really brought me to the question, which I really would like to speak with you. So as I mentioned earlier, and recently Harvard Medical School hosts this first science conference, and they invited scientists from around the world and at least 12 different countries to present. And there are thousands of research. Of course, they did not go through thousands of them, but a lot of it because it was so-called meta analysis, the literature review. But from all those studies, there's no argument. Tai Chi Chuan is the best exercise, right? Agree? Agree, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's great for the brain. It's good for the heart. It's good for the balance. It's good for your stomach. It's like you just do one thing and it's good for all of that. Can you imagine any exercise is that powerful, that efficient, right? So that, yeah.
I mean, it is like Tai Chi and Qigong. It's the only thing I do. Ever since I switched over from Wushu to Tai Chi, I didn't start doing Qigong until later on in life because when I was younger, I didn't feel like I needed it. Now it is integral in my own self-care.
You are still very young, okay, and you look great. And yes, personally, I went through the same process as you. I started with Tai Chi, and then I realized Tai Chi is a form of Qigong, except some of the health Qigong, they don't have the martial art aspect. So we have the same progression. And so one thing you and I, we heard that again and again, they are talking about there is a huge need for Tai Chi instructors because Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong, they are so good for the health. And our country spend a big chunk of our GDP, I think is 18% on healthcare. And then when we come, and then much more than the other countries, Canada, the European country, or Japan. But our life expectancy less than they, and the care we got much less. And at the same time, the costs keep going up and up. And this is not sustainable, right? So, and the Tai Chi Chuan has been proven so good to not just preventing the diseases, it also has that therapeutic and healing power. So everybody in the conference all agree more instructors are needed. They evolved to a question is very natural. And then, you know, there are so many Tai Chi Chuan styles. Basically, there are at least 7, Chen Yang, Wu Wu Sun, and He style, and Wu Dang. There are 7. And within each style, like say Chen style, has so many forms, 4 basic forms, and some also some offshoots. And these are bare hand forms. And then there are a dozen of weapon forms. So
and then
so
different
many
lineages where they have their own variations of how to
exactly
do things.
Like the Yang style, they have the Guangping Yang style, and then they have the Yang Zhenduo. So there are so many different lineage, and they're all different. So yeah, I can understand, you know, the confusions out there. So a lot of time people say, oh, we need to standardize it, and then we need to have a certification. And here is, I just love when, you know, Shirley stood up and then spoke, and it was very powerful. And I think that everybody heard you loud and clear. And I think that you can share, you know, what you said during the meeting with us. How about that? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, I think that a lot of people going into the conference, especially when it comes to the topic of certification, you know, they may have seen a YouTube video that I made where I actually spoke out very strongly against an online teacher Tai Chi certification program. It was a program that you pay $199 and you watch some videos. I think they're like, I don't remember, 20 videos or something like that. And then you can get a certification that is recognized that you're a qualified Tai Chi instructor.
That's horrible. I heard some certification companies or organizations out there, people have zero knowledge.
Yeah.
And they went in and they spent just 1 weekend, not even 2 full days, like a day and a half. They got a certificate and say they are able to teach now. And you and I, you know, spend so many hours. I feel like I'm an idiot, right? Why did I spend that many hours studying the art? And of course, I understand this part of it is personal pursuit and self-cultivation and the level of the mastery. And I have learned, and very few people actually wanted even to learn, right? And I'm pretty sure at your level, and probably some of the things you will only share with very few individuals because they are so much into the art. But you know,
so like, I think that
what's the reasonable amount of training people should get and then to teach?
This is a real challenge. Like I actually do agree that this is a problem, that the entire Tai Chi community needs to try to resolve, because the current method of producing instructors isn't producing enough to support the demand for all the people who want to learn. And this is a real problem that we need to solve. And the question is, who should lead this effort then to train qualified instructors? Should it be the people who know the art the best, and that's the traditional Tai Chi community that has the closest and deepest relationship with the origin of the arts? How involved should they be in this process of certifying or producing instructors for people who want to learn? Right now, because there is no organizing body that oversees Tai Chi standards in the United States, any organization can come into existence and say, we're now this Tai Chi certifying organization, and we're going to produce a certificate. Anyone can do that. And that certificate doesn't mean anything. But the problem is the fitness industry.
Mhm.
They are the ones that are providing fitness instruction to places where certification it means something. They actually have national boards that certify different areas of fitness. Like if you're a personal trainer, or even certain like yoga, they have certification that means something. You have these other fitness areas where the certification involves something, where there are people who oversee, and that certification means something. The fitness industry now sees an opportunity to add Tai Chi as part of their fitness offerings. And
Really?
yes, so that's where the certification push came from. Because if you're going to teach fitness at a place, like at certain clinics, you need to be certified. So then you can't teach Tai Chi if you're not certified. And the VA really accelerated this, because you used to be able to teach Tai Chi at the VA, and that's where our schools, we were the ones that produced the instructors for the local community, right? In our school, Master Aiping, she runs, wait, I took over, but when she ran the school, it was the largest school in Connecticut for many, many years. But even the largest school in Connecticut, we didn't need more than 4 assistant instructors teaching under her, right? And that's the largest school in Connecticut. It was her, and there were like 4 assistant instructors that
So,
taught under
so,
her.
so you were telling a story, and then say you got some kind of invitation to
Oh
teach at
yeah.
some kind of government organization, and
Mhm.
your organization is to fill the form, and then take over from this point.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us
So
the detail.
yeah, so back before, the VA didn't require certification, and people would learn Tai Chi under a master, and they would get the sign off and the approval that after all this training, they can go out and teach. And so a lot of the instructors at the VA, at the YMCA, at the community centers were trained, and they're very qualified, and they've been the instructors out in the community. But then the VA required to be certified. to teach. A lot of the local instructors actually could no longer teach. So many people reached out to me to say that they used to be able to teach at the VA, but unless they go out and buy one of these certificates, that they don't want to do based on principle, just based on the principle alone, that they shouldn't have to do that. This certification that the VA was requiring, because we got reached out by a company who bids on federal contracts. So the VA in our area, one of the best VAs in the country, West Haven, they wanted to bring in Tai Chi and Qigong instructors for the VA. So there was a request for proposals. This company that bids on federal contracts reached out to us to see if we could give him a quote to subcontract out the instruction. And looking at the requirements, it was impossible to meet these requirements. Like, I wouldn't have met those requirements. Master Aiping wouldn't have met those requirements. No one. I actually reached out to the local instructors in Connecticut, and then I reached out to a Facebook group that I'm a part of that has many thousands of members. It's a Tai Chi instructors Facebook group to show like this is the requirement. Who meets these requirements? I think there was one person in the UK. And so
do you remember what are the requirements?
Yeah,
I'm just curious, and I want to see if I'm qualified.
Okay, so
okay, well, I actually certify people to teach, and the people I certified was able to be accepted to say YMCA and other gyms in the country in certain cities. So, but let's see if I am actually qualified to teach at the place you just talked about.
These are the requirements. 1,000 teacher certification hours in Tai Chi and Qigong, 200 documented hours of training in medical Qigong, and 200 hours in documented clinical practice, 1,500 contact or teaching hours in Tai Chi or Qigong, 75 contact teaching hours in trauma-based movement therapy, 50 contact teaching hours for people with disabilities and other physical limitations.
Well, I think I met certain criteria. Of course, I have to go back and to dig through, and where and when I did all those teaching and yeah, as a proof, and but they did not talk about say Tai Chi or Qigong itself, and but okay, and but those teaching hours, are they specific to Tai Chi and Qigong or no? Or it can be anything?
Yep, Tai Chi and Qigong.
Oh, okay. Well, then that at least makes some sense there. So,
yeah. So this is very, very specific, especially in the medical Qigong requirement. And in like medical Qigong, that is something that is very specific.
Well, I think the well, okay, this is up to the interpretation. So it depends how people say it, some for us, because I think you and I will follow the same convention, which is more or less dictated by the the Chinese side, and then you say the health qigong is the exercise of the qigong exercise we teach people to do, and they can help themselves. And then if I am an acupuncture doctor, I render the service to another person, then that's medical qigong, but otherwise is a health qigong. However, there is other how should I say classification, and let me grab a book and to show you. And so in this is Chinese medical qigong. So actually in this book, like 8 sections of brocade and 6 healing song and 5 animal frolics, which you and I we will consider as more health qigong, right? And then it's also part of a medical qigong because with a different definition. They just say, when you do this, you can have a healing effect, or medically you have that effect. So again, it's a wild west out there.
It is, and the thing that was so interesting at the conference was when I said that these were the requirements, because it was at a panel that had a director at the VA that was there, and I mentioned that these were the requirements for the VA. She said that she didn't know, it didn't come out of her office that the individual VAs themselves are coming up with their own requirements. So I don't know if the people who issued this even know what medical qigong is. I think that it's very confusing.
Not.
Yeah,
probably not.
And so another thing with certification, because I feel like a lot of academic and scientists and people who are looking at things at that high level, they have really wonderful intentions, and they look at things with a wonderful positive optimism, and they are seeing things in the ideal state of how great it would be if we could all come together and have a standard certification that can dictate that the people who have the certification, they're now qualified. When they may be too removed from things that might be the downstream consequences of it, because they don't see what is happening on the ground. So with certification and the sheer amount of certifications that are out there now, it has, this is what I'm seeing over the last 5 years. And it's really been the last 5 years that have been traumatic. The local instructors that used to teach out in the community, they can't afford to teach Tai Chi as a profession anymore, because after the VA required to be certified, then a lot of other organizations required certification too. A lot of YMCAs now require you to be certified. And the instructors who were very good, competent, qualified instructors teaching for years, they started no longer being able to teach unless they went out and got a certification. And some of these certifications, the instructors, it's insulting that they've been teaching for 20 years at a very high level, and they have to go and get a certification from somebody who is not nearly as qualified as they are, just so they can present a piece of paper to their place of work where they had been teaching. But the other thing is, because so much of the certification is coming out of the fitness industry, what the fitness industry is doing is taking their Zumba instructors and other fitness instructors and giving them an additional line of business. Well, the going rate for a Tai Chi instructor was much higher than the going rate of a Zumba instructor, right? So just here in Connecticut, if you're teaching out in a community center, senior center as a Tai Chi instructor, you should easily be getting paid $80 an hour for that job. Well, a fitness instructor that teaches Zumba gets paid $35 an hour. And if they will accept a Tai Chi teaching job they'll accept it for $35. So now the place offering the Tai Chi instruction, they have dropped their rates because there are all these people who are teaching with a certification that will accept it. And we see that in this same Tai Chi instructor group that I'm part of. There was somebody who works at a fitness center, and she said, I have a Tai Chi teaching job that is available. It's $35 an hour. And so now you have Tai Chi instructors, the qualified Tai Chi instructors, they can't afford to teach anymore. So many of people that I know stop teaching. They just can't afford to teach anymore. And that's been replaced by unqualified instructors who have a paper that says that they're certified. And so that's what's happening out in the real world.
Yes, well, I share that sentiment. Actually, it was very funny. And one time, and a student of mine, and she was just thought highly about me. And so when she joined Lifetime Fitness, and a new Lifetime Fitness center was opened very close to where I live, and then she just went there and to talk to the director and say, you guys should hire her and blah 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 blah. Or, it's very, very good. So I got an interview. I normally don't go out and solicit anything. So the interview went really well, and then she asked me about my rate. And then of course, and then she was telling me how much, and they would pay for the fitness instructor. Then there's no way. And then at the same time, how many years of training you got. And right now in your Aiping Tai Chi, you have a few instructors, right? And I read their bio, and each of them have studied the other 20, 30 years, right? And and then they have been practicing a lot of themselves as well. So this is not something you can crank out quickly.
That's right. And I mean, I think that it is worth thinking about the evolution of the art. Where do we want it to go? That, there is the art of Tai Chi that takes a really long time to understand. Then there is the fitness movement aspect that a lot of people want, that maybe we don't need to bring everything that's in the arts for people to be able to do that. And I think that we should discuss it. And I think that as long as people understand that what they're learning is a simplified version based on Tai Chi. But if you're going to say that what I'm teaching is Tai Chi, then I have an expectation that you're teaching everything that is Tai Chi. If you're only going to take some things from Tai Chi, then I think that it should be called out that it is based on Tai Chi. So that there's a distinction. And this was actually one of the posters that Ray, who's an instructor, he runs Wisconsin Tai Chi. He actually had this as a poster.
Oh, okay.
And he uses as an example, like that, like, you know, champagne. You can only use the term champagne if it comes from the region of Champagne. And if you're going to have sparkling wine, you can't call it champagne. So that was an example that he used.
Did you hear the case about Swiss cheese?
No.
You did not hear, and I think
didn't.
which country was that? And there was a lot of cheese going through the custom, and then the Swiss cheese, and then called out, said, "You cannot say this is a Swiss cheese, okay? These cheese were made, I think maybe made in the U.S. or somewhere. You cannot call it so it's illegal, the patent or whatever infringement or trademark infringement. So it was pounded, and I don't know if the cheese are melted or not, but it was a big news.
Cheese is a great example. That's actually a better example. So it's kind of like there is cheese, and then there's processed cheese product, right? So like there are like Velveeta cannot call itself cheese. They have to call themselves processed cheese product because it's not really cheese, right? And I think that like that's something that the whole community should come together to discuss. And I think that I am really appreciative of the Harvard conference team for inviting the instructors to attend the event and to open it up. I appreciated that there was a discounted price for instructors to attend because that signals that they welcome
I
the
did not even know
traditional
that.
community. There was a discounted price for instructors, and a lot of instructors from the traditional community showed up, which I thought was wonderful because it is important for the everybody to come together into the room to have this discussion together, and whatever decisions are made, I feel that the traditional community needs to be part of the conversation.
Well, I appreciate you were the voice for the traditional art, and thank you very much for being there and spoke up. That was great, and I really appreciate it. I'm having such a great time and talking to you, but I noticed, it probably is kind of late for you now because you're in the East Coast and I'm in Las Vegas. I'm only 5 o'clock, and then so it's kind of late for you. And I hope you can come back, and then we can how should I say, pick a different topic, or we can still continue with this conversation because this is not going to solve anytime soon. But at the same time, we all understand, and then I'm also happy there's a big need for that, and the VA, Dr. Jenna Clark, and her presentation, she was talking about, you know, in 2017, they started with this initiative, and 5 years later, and the how should I say, the encounter a number fivefold, 5 times more than before, and then this was as of 2022, and I cannot imagine 2023 what the number would be. So overall, countrywide, and there is a huge demand coming.
There is.
And then,
yeah, and you know, I would say that, like, I think a lot of people assume that we have to really simplify Tai Chi down so much to make it easier for people to learn. If it's too complex, then people won't want to learn it. They only want to learn things that are easy. And I have to say that based on the viewership of my content, I don't agree, because I don't simplify, I don't water down the depth. What I see is it's my job to be able to communicate the complexities in a better way, that I keep the depth, but make it digestible so that people can understand it.
excellent.
And that's like that's our job. That is my challenge to the other people in the traditional community, to get better at communicating the complexities. And what I found is people actually do want to go deeper. But we have to do a better job of showing it in a way that they can understand. So just because I have over 100,000 followers on Instagram that are there watching me teaching. My Instagram reels are mainly little snippets from the actual classes that I teach. And the classes, like, it's sometimes it's not simple things. We go really in depth, where you have to explore the feelings inside your body. You have to spend that time to go inside. I don't do step 1, put your foot here. Step 2, put your hand here. Because I don't think that will teach you how to come into yourself to feel. So, and because a lot of people are watching my content, it tells me that people actually do want to learn depth. That I don't think that it's a fair assessment to assume people don't want the depth.
I'm so excited to hear what you just shared with us, and I sure hope so. And you know what? Yes, I think it's our responsibility how to simplify the art without sacrifice the principles.
That's right.
And then also our job, how to explain it, and you know, so people understand it. And so these are, you know, tall order actually for us, for our community, and but it is badly needed. But at the same time, you know, I kind of appreciate some of the institute or some organizations, they train you know, very simplified Tai Chi or Qigong, because they get people interested. And I have many of my students, they are certified in the simple system, and but they, since they enter, the entry barrier is low. So they come into the door and they want to know more. And I'm pretty sure probably a lot of your viewers, they are like that, and they're curious why, right? So
Yeah,
yes, I think
absolutely.
yeah, that's their contributions as well. But
Yeah.
how do we bring everybody together to the table to really talk about how do we go from here and here,
Yeah.
and more Tai Chi becomes more accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter they can stand or not. Even they cannot stand, they can do a sitting, right?
Absolutely. Like, I think that, what I want to do is help the traditional instructors come into the 21st century. If people don't see what authentic Tai Chi is, then we don't give them the opportunity to realize that they want to learn it. Right? If all they see, and this is actually, so I have a video that was very popular that was about this online certification program that a lot of traditional instructors reached out to thank me for making it. And then after I got their attention, my second video was directed at them to tell them, when you are making videos and you're writing about Tai Chi on the internet and you're making content, I want you to use TAICHI. I don't want you to use TAIJIQUAN, because this is what's happening on the internet is the authentic Tai Chi instructors, they have adopted to spell the art as Tai Chi Chuan with the J and the Q. And so when you do that, then you basically hide everything away from the public eye, because unless you know to spell Tai Chi, you're a person who doesn't know anything about Tai Chi. They're going to be searching TAICHI. And when they search that, what happens is they're going to be seeing only the simplified things, only the things that are not traditional. If everybody who is doing traditional is spelling it TAIJIQUAN, just from an internet search perspective and what you see. And so that's what I am trying to encourage people in the traditional community is we want to represent a full picture for people who are searching. When they hear that Tai Chi is good and they go and they read the research article, Tai Chi is good, and they're going to go and search. If they search TAICHI,
you want to send me the link of your things? I can
that
put,
video.
yeah, I can put in the video things, and so people can have a more resources to get information. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, just thinking about like how are we representing the art so that people can see the full picture.
Very, very important, and thank you very much. And now you see, Shirley Chock, and I'm so happy she's here, and she definitely represents the traditional, but also the younger generation. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much,
The talk.
Violet.
I had a fun talking to you, and then everyone, if you have any questions and comments, please leave me a note, or if you have questions for Shirley, you can find her on her website. I will have her link in my video, that's the section you can find her, and then you can ask her questions, or you can post on my side, and I definitely will relay the message to her. Again, thank you so much today for coming.
Oh, thank you so much, Violet. It was my pleasure, my honor. I had such a good time.
Me too.